Favorite Ric Flair moment? Champ, I'm gonna let you go
Um,
first.
So many Ric Flair moments, man. So many. But I got two in mind, if I can.
Go ahead.
Uh, Number one for me has to be when he did that huge return show back in WCW. After that long suspension that he faced after doing that no show on Thunder when him and Eric Bischoff was feuding a lot, and they was able to get that large return when him, Steve McMichael, God bless him, the other wrestler, which we can't say his name, and Dean Malenko and Arn Anderson returned. Uh, that was nothing short of spectacular because people don't realize this. A month before Ric Flair and the Horsemen returned to national television and they had their reunion, WWE was beating them for the last couple of weeks. And the return of Ric Flair and him coming back to WCW after that long suspension, that allowed them to overtake them for at least 1 or 2 weeks in the ratings. And to see that feud, that backstage feud with him and Eric Bischoff come really be brought center stage while that reunion was happening is nothing short of amazing. You got the chance to see the tradition of WCW. You got the chance to see the old NWA, the National Wrestling Alliance, in that, because the territory, Ric Flair's the last remnants of the wrestling territories. Him and the Four Horsemen are the last remnants of that tradition where the territories. You used to hear Dusty Rhodes, God rest his soul, say that all the time when the Four Horsemen used to come out. Tradition. And Ric Flair and the Four Horsemen represented the last little bit of territory where you think about the tradition of the territory and the tradition of the National Wrestling Alliance. So for him to make that huge return to WCW on that night, where basically Mike today is walking around like a chicken with his head cut off trying to get to the airport in order to see Ric Flair get off the plane, and they really couldn't catch him until he came into the arena, was something special. Another one, man, I would have to say another big one for me. This one's special because it's when he went to the WWE and won the WWE title at the Royal Rumble.
Oh, he stole my one. 92.
Oh man, my bad.
No, that's how great minds think alike.
Oh, my bad. I didn't really think anybody was gonna think about that one. It showed everybody that I can succeed not only in the friendly confines of the NWA, but I can also succeed with the in enemy territory, with Vince McMahon, with the competition. And ironically, he took the WCW title with him. It's a shame that we didn't get a chance to see him at his peak versus Hulk Hogan at his peak at WrestleMania 8. And we had to settle for Macho Man versus Ric Flair. But for him to win that after being the flagship bearer in the NWA, aka WCW, for all of those years, is nothing short of amazing. You know what I mean? And Vince had been begging him to come there for years. And when he finally showed up, he gives that famous speech. With a tear in my eye, I can honestly say, this is the happiest day of my life. And he's holding the WWE title. And people don't realize that was one of his reigns. People think that all of his reigns was in the National Wrestling Alliance. But that one reign in the WWE with him as a heel and him going face to face with some of the biggest stars is amazing, man. And for him to be the face of the NWA and WCW for so long, and to go up to Vince's territory in the Great Wars of Kevin Nash in New York and win that title. And it did take him long. Didn't take him long at all for him to win that title in New York at the Royal Rumble, one of the biggest pay-per-views in history. That was amazing, man. Shout out to the great Ric Flair, man. You know, the cultural icon.
Mm. For me, with Ric Flair, man, I was gonna steal the Royal Rumble, but them promos that he did, them, especially when he talked about the women and then talking about the types of things with the style and the personality, man. Him and Stone Cold. I love the one in which Ric Flair was losing it, and then Stone Cold was like, "Settle down before you break your pacemaker, kid."
Man,
Classic, classic.
But Ric
Lord have
Flair,
mercy.
a mentor. I love how he meant for the younger wrestlers like the Randy Ortons at the time. And also, too, let's not forget him in TNA. Some of the promos that he was cutting in TNA as well. I know Champ with that huge smirk on his face right now. Boy, it sounded like he was listening to Jim Cornette, huh?
Very colorful.
BRF.
Speaking of TNA, I definitely have one of those moments in mind. Well, for me, from a wrestling perspective, my favorite Ric Flair moment, even though he lost, was WrestleMania 24 against Shawn Michaels.
His last match.
That yeah, his last match. That was just for him to be at that age, to him to be in the shape. I mean, he was in good shape, but not like early on in his career. To still be able to put on that type of match with the Shawn Michaels. I get Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels could have a 5-star match with a broom. He's that good. I get it. But Ric Flair, just the storytelling, just everything about that match worked so well. I mean, if you haven't seen the match, go see it because there's a reason that match won match of the year for I believe for 2008. There's a reason why that match won match of the year that year because that match just it hit it ticked every checkbox it needed to tick, and it was just a perfectly told match from start to finish. I have another great moment on here for Rick from a comedy perspective, and it's one of the greatest things I've ever seen. And I seriously hope y'all know what I'm talking about. One, one fortunate night on TNA Impact, they gave Jay Lethal a microphone and told him to cut loose. And I tell you what, that impersonation he did of Ric Flair was one of the greatest segments I've ever seen. Kudos to Ric Flair for even being able to keep a straight face that entire time. That was comedy cinematic gold. I'm talking about woo, 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 woo. I'm talking about back and forth. It's one of the and Jay Lethal. And if y'all know Jay Lethal, y'all know Jay Lethal is a very good impersonator of wrestlers. Two particular, his Ric Flair. And if y'all haven't heard that man's Macho Man Randy Savage, y'all need to check it out. It is incredible. But yeah, that segment on TNA Impact where they just basically just let him cut loose. And Ric Flair gave him the go ahead before he went out there to hit that damn near perfect Ric Flair impersonation. That was amazing. And Ric Flair being who he was at the time, because he was kind of like this kind of old, kind of demented, psychotic, always running his mouth all the time character. He kind of reimagined himself a little bit in TNA, ran his mouth a little more, shut off at the mouth a little more, and it was one of the better segments I'd ever seen. I laughed. I think I laughed for about 5 or 6 minutes after that segment was over. I couldn't stop laughing. It was that funny. I mean, shout out to Jay Lethal for pulling it off. That was perfect. And shout out to Ric Flair as well. That was incredible. I loved every second of it.
Mm-hmm. And I also love the days with him and Triple H, Randy Orton, Batista, Evolution. Those days, man. Those were legit, man. But Ric Flair, them robes. I mean, the robes that he was wearing, the style, the drip, man. Ric Flair, and especially the sunglasses that he was rocking with too. So I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, man, can't.
You just can't keep these alligators down.